Because also in South Korean society, you need to respect your elders. And, so they get a lot of these young kids, don't have a lot of hobbies, don't have girlfriends, and they are more than happy to listen to their elders to play StarCraft. And I think that's a little bit that's borderline human rights violation. And also like the slave trade, or was it was called the Free Players Agreement. What was that called? It was just, I think it was the Free Players. Was that what it was? The one where Jaedong and many players were forced to be screwed. I knew it as the slave auction. I'll just sort of repeat it for any of you who aren't familiar with it. Basically, Kespo wanted to create something where they said, oh, we want players to have more opportunity to negotiate for their contracts. And basically what it came down to is if you were a good enough player, if you didn't sign back on your team immediately, any other team could bid for you. And if they did put out a bid, you could either accept or reject that bid as the player. And then after all that, you had the opportunity to go back to your original team. And that might sound a little bit reasonable at first, but what happens to someone like Midas, I think was a good example. Midas was offered a deal from SK Telecom. He declined, and then all of a sudden he goes into this like free players auction, and people might not pick him up. And he fortunately ended up going over to WeMade, but I think it was on a much worse deal. Or even worse, there were players who put themselves up for this free players agreement. Their team didn't sign back on with them, and they said, yeah, I want to have my go at other teams bidding for me. And then when no other teams bid for them, they're screwed. They have to go back to their old team and take like a 90% pay cut, or else they know that they're on the street. And a lot of players, because they're young, did not get to negotiate their own contracts. Their parents had to step in. And I mean, I think in Jaedong's case, it was a little bit of an exception because I think they were very reasonable. They basically said, we don't want our son so tired all the time. We don't want him to be like the backbone of our team. So they ended up trying to force him into other teams. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, he also got $400,000 for it. So I think he managed okay, but many others did get screwed. I do remember it was a lot of commotion a couple of months back when the seasons had ended. Yes, that is a money-grubbing thing that does inflict upon the gameplay experience, and I do agree with you. I think it could be run in a better way. That's quite hierarchical system which prevails in South Korea may not be the best way to foster esports. I would definitely say so much. But that's all in the future. But if I may press you a bit further, if things go well and esports become a recognized thing in mainstream society, do you see yourself taking part in that in any way, professionally? Oh yeah.
Oh, before I answer that, sorry, I forgot to say one other thing. My apologies. I always just go off on these long tangents, and when at the end, I'm like, why am I talking about this? So I'm gonna try to work on that just a touch. So, with StarCraft 2 and Blizzard, a big issue that a lot of pretty much any game in esports suffers from is just decentralization. Like, there are so many sites that seem to be competing sites as opposed to like community building sites, that it becomes difficult to establish any like big community. I mean, there was a big issue with this even with Counter-Strike. When Source came out, half the players played Counter-Strike 1.6 and the other half played Half-Life Source. And I think what's great about Blizzard now taking so much initiative with StarCraft 2 is that I'm sure that they will have ladder systems and tournament systems built into StarCraft 2, so that way people, like, Battle.net literally does become the place to play. We don't have to worry about, oh, I play on US West, and oh, I play on PG Tour, and where do I play if I'm not good enough for PG Tour but better than US West? Well, nowhere. Good luck, like... I'm sure there's going to be much, much less of that in StarCraft 2. So in regards to whether or not I would do it, I really would be interested in that sort of thing, because really I just have such a passion for esports. I know I want to be involved with esports for the rest of my life in some way. Being a player would be cool because I love clicking buttons. That's a big part of who I am.
For sure.
I'm thinking, though, I mean, because right now in my graduate program, my degree is interactive media, which is basically an academic, pompous way of saying video game design. And I'm really having quite a lot of fun actually making video games. Cool. So I would like to have a good portion of time devoted to that. But frankly, because I'm hitting the point where everything I do is so fun. Because you normally think of like, oh, I go to work and then I come home and I sort of mentally drool and relax. But for me, I can totally see spending a nice day, you know, making the video games, hanging out with my partner, doing that sort of thing, working on some other side projects, and then coming home and playing StarCraft-2 and battling for the rest of the night. I think that'd be quite a fun existence.
I would totally agree with you, and I have a not completely dissimilar dream myself, but we'll see if there is a basis for that, for sure. But
and one thing that is a little bit nice about StarCraft 2 is that one thing that's depressing for me is, for instance, I have not played StarCraft in about 4 months right now, just because of such unbelievable time commitments. And as a result, when I do sit down to play, I don't get the joy of relearning new strategies a lot of the times. I just get this obnoxious feeling of, man, I know how it used to feel to be good, and I hate the fact that I'm making all these old mistakes. Like, I cannot tell you how many times I have to retrain myself to look at the top right corner, to check my food count, and make overlords. Like, I think for the first week, every single time I start playing StarCraft again, I mess up and forget a lot of overlords. And it takes about a week for me to like, okay, yeah, now I'm getting the familiarity with the timing and everything. Okay, there we go. But it's just annoying that there's like this month-long period where I'm trying to get back to the skill level I was at before, as opposed to achieving higher skill levels and learning more stuff that I have not learned before. So, it'll be a real nice opportunity with StarCraft 2, that it's a completely new game, and I get to go back to being an absolute naive, awful newbie. I miss those days.
I know what you mean, even though I'm nowhere near as good. But yes, StarCraft is a cruel mistress, and that's why we love it.
Oh.
Hopefully StarCraft 2 can be that as well.
Mm-hmm.
However, before this interview needs to be rounded off, how do you have any particular shout-outs or announcements that you'd like your fans to hear?
Oh man, I wasn't prepared for this. Well, a big shout out to my brother and my mom especially for just being like so supportive throughout my entire StarCraft life. Oh man. And oh man, who do I have to thank? Man, all sorts of people.
Sorry if this crept up on you. It's just we're reaching 40 minutes, and people's attention span might be depleting.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. Well, big shout out to all the awesome community sites: Team Liquid, Ghost of Gamers, PG Tour. Oh, I love PG Tour. Especially big shout out to them. And yeah, I guess that would be about it. Family and community, man. That's what StarCraft's all about.
Totally. And well, first of all, thank you very much for doing this interview, Sean Day9 Plott. It's been a great pleasure, and I do implore everyone watching this to check out his stuff, podcast as well as live stream, educational and very entertaining stuff. It's a perfect way to waste away a bus ride learning about StarCraft as you're looking into the distance. And thank you very much for doing this.
Yeah,
it's been a pleasure.
And thanks so much again for the reschedule. Sorry about what happened earlier. For those of you who don't know, Sebastian is very kind in terms of rescheduling. I agreed to do an interview at an earlier time, but had to pull an all-nighter finishing a project and accidentally slept in.
I don't mind at all, and hopefully that project will in one way contribute to your video game / eSports career in the future. So
yeah,
no problem at all. And to you viewers out there, I'd just like to take the opportunity to thank you all for all the positive and constructive feedback you've been giving me since I started doing these interviews. It's been great, and if you have any ideas or suggestions, send me a message. Feel free to subscribe, follow me on Twitter, Facebook, etc. That's where the magic happens.
Yeah.
And back to you, Sean. Thank you very much for doing this interview once again. It's been a true pleasure.
Yeah. And also, I definitely need to make an extra special shout out to everyone who tunes in on a nightly basis to my streams and to downloads my podcast and all the wonderful feedback I get. I mean, I'm sure you know that anytime, like Sebastian, I'm sure you specifically know how great it feels for someone to be like, "Thank you so much for what you do. I love these articles," and that just always makes my day every time.
Indeed, it does. So. this is it for now. Polygon review out. Thanks to day 9. GG.